Welcome to the Launching Pad's YouTube channel. My name is Tarek. I'm the Executive Director at the Launching Pad. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's frequently misunderstood throughout this industry as well as inside the rooms of the 12-step fellowships. This topic is the power of choice and how it relates to alcoholism and drug addiction. The reason I say that it's misunderstood is there is this ongoing idea that once we enter this process and go through it that we get the choice back. Believing that we ever had a choice or that it's possible to regain control or choice implies to me that in the grips of my addiction that I chose over and over to hurt the people that cared the most about me. I chose over and over to burn my life to the ground. This concept, the way I will describe it today, is how we teach it at the Launching Pad. The Launching Pad is a 12-step immersion program incorporating life skills coaching, healthy diets, physical fitness, and recreational activity. We look at a holistic approach in approaching addiction through addressing the three-part problem, which is mind, body, and spirit. The steps will address the mental, fellowship with like-minded individuals endeavoring to recover from this deadly illness. Will address the unity, and our sense of purpose will feed our spirit through service for others and how we can be helpful to them and constantly meet their needs as best we can. I'm going to break down the first step, which states that I am an addict, an alcoholic, and I cannot manage my life. I want to focus on the first half of that. I have to go into a detailed description of this step because we are a 12-step immersion program and it's very applicable to what we do, and it'll help the viewer understand what we're dealing with when it comes to alcoholism and drug addiction. Powerlessness has two features. Early on, I thought this was a two-part problem. When I started, I couldn't control the amount that I did, and once I stopped, I always went back, and that made my life unmanageable because I couldn't focus on my career, couldn't focus on paying bills, couldn't focus on the relationships. And it makes sense at first. But in my personal experience, something happened to me where I became internally unmanageable first, early on in recovery, and then it started to bleed into the external world and relationships at work and financial situations. So something was wrong. I was over 15 months clean and sober, and I was living a very unmanageable life. So I woke up to the idea that the mental obsession had nothing to do with my unmanageability. Now, going further on unmanageability is going to be next month's topic. Right now, I want to focus on the powerlessness. Powerlessness has two attributes to it when it comes to alcoholism and drug addiction. My experience abundantly confirms to me that once I start using and or drinking, all bets are off. I can't control the amount, can't tell you where it's going to end up or what's going to unfold. And once I stop, and I always stopped, I always went back, no matter how great the necessity or the wish not to. Once I attained both those features, I became completely powerless. So here's the interesting thing about addiction and alcoholism. The extent to which an individual can quit upon a non-spiritual basis like the 12 steps depends on the extent to which that individual has already lost the power to choose whether or not he will drink or use. That's a direct correlation there. And when we work with people, we really need to do an investigation to find out if they fit this description, because that will determine the course of action they have to take through these 12 steps. And that's part of what we do at the Launching Pad with our recovery mentors doing one-on-ones, and the sponsors that work with the guys that attend our program are all students of our basic textbook in Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous, and we reinforce everything they're doing with their sponsors, and it gives us a firm foundation to build on when it comes to this first step, because an individual's experience with this first step will drive everything that they do in the remaining steps. Physically, for this powerlessness part, the physical powerlessness, it's quite easy for many people to see. Okay, I can look at my experience after I start drinking and or using, and I can evaluate what typically happens. For every 10 times, 7 or 8, I was absolutely going to lose control and all bets are off. Maybe a few times I would be able to control, but I wouldn't be able to enjoy. It's the mental feature that's much more difficult for people to see. The idea that with no drugs and alcohol in my system, that I don't have a choice bothers a lot of individuals. It's something that we don't want to admit. And for many years, I thought in that instant, I was actually making a choice. Maybe I had fought off the mental obsession all day at the office, and then comes 5 o'clock, I made a choice to go to the bar. And I believed that lie for many, many years, until an individual explained it the best way I've ever heard it. And he talked about choice being an intellectual sorting out process where I examine all of my options. I have option A. I examine the option and I either accept it or reject it. I have option B, analysis, rejection, acceptance. And then I have option C. And I would go through that same process of analysis, acceptance, or rejection. What happened in my personal experience, and I believe in the experiences of many addicts and alcoholics, is that process I just described is suspended. And there is no choice. That's the baffling feature of addiction and alcoholism. I don't think any individual chooses the drugs and the alcohol over the people they love, chooses to destroy his life in every way. I find it hard to believe. And in order for me to make sense of my experience and the experience of countless others, I work with this concept. I've seen over and over many individuals who carry a great deal of shame, remorse, and guilt because they believe they had a choice. And here I'm going to explain something, and listen very carefully, because I don't want this to be misunderstood. It doesn't relieve us of responsibility. But when the day came when I woke up to the idea that because I was powerless, meaning I couldn't control what happened after I started, and without any drugs and alcohol in my body, from a state of consciousness called sobriety, I was going to commit the most insane act of my life. That's complete loss of the power of choice. And once I realized I had no choice but to do what I did, it freed me of all of the guilt, of all of the shame, of all of the regret, because I realized I could not have done any different. That did not relieve me of the responsibility and this idea that I must go and repair all the damage I caused. Now, in the 9th step and the 12 steps, that's where we go out into the world and repair all the damaged relationships and pay back all the money that we owe. Now, if I would show up to a person that was hurt by me when I was active in my addiction, I can't explain to them the power of choice and that I lose control once I start, and when there's no drugs, alcohol in my body, I have a mind that constantly takes me back. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear how we regret what we have done. They want to maybe talk about how it made them feel, tell us if we've left anything out, and then we ask them that all-important question of, what can I do to make things right between you and I? Leaving out everything I described earlier. But for the individual in recovery, attempting to achieve permanent recovery in their lives, it is paramount that they understand this concept behind the power of choice so they can get free from the guilt, the shame, and the regret when they understand that the illness incorporates this loss of the power to choose. Most addicts and alcoholics, maybe not all, for reasons we don't understand to this day, have lost the power of choice in drink and drug. Our willpower becomes practically non-existent, and we are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the pain of the memory of the suffering, the humiliation, the pain of a week ago, a month ago. Sometimes it's a few short hours ago. We're without defense against that first thought of drugs and alcohol. And once we've reached that place and that description fits our experience, we have lost the power of choice. I don't have the capacity anymore to engage the intellectual sorting out process that I described. That process is suspended. Even if I'm fighting the obsession off all day long, comes 5 o'clock, there's a curious mental blank spot. And that intellectual sorting out process disappears. But I watch individuals beat themselves up over and over. How do I keep choosing the drugs over my wife? How do I keep choosing the drugs over my addiction or over my children? How do I keep choosing alcohol and drugs over my career? They actually believe they're making a choice. But addiction, the way our basic text describes it and the way we present it at the launching pad, is a description of one that does not have choice. That to us defines the true nature of addiction and alcoholism, and it explains a lot of things that we could not otherwise account for. Today, being clean over 9 years, I don't have a choice over drugs and alcohol. I don't wake up each day and make a choice to stay sober. The way I look at it is, in a fit spiritual condition, after going through the 12-step process and staying active on a daily basis, my options every day when I wake up never include drugs and alcohol. When I wake up in the morning, the intellectual sorting out process has to do with whether or not I'm going to pray and meditate this morning, whether or not I'm going to take a shower first, then pray and meditate. Or maybe today I should just, not do prayer and meditation early, spend some time with my wife and daughter, and perhaps engage the process later on. Those are my 3 options possibly in a morning. The 4th option is never get a drink. Or it's never let's go get a bag of cocaine. That has been removed. The illusion that I ever had a choice was the central point of the problem, and now that's gone. And as long as I engage this activity of the steps and the fellowship and helping others, have that laid down as a foundation, I will remain in that fit spiritual condition. And this is the core of our program, is introducing our residents to individuals that are very active in those 3 areas, so they can walk them through this process. So when their spirits wake up, they have a mentor there to take them through the process. And my recovery mentors and myself, we reinforce everything and we hold them accountable. We facilitate the process and we try to increase the chance of success. I hope this sheds light on this misunderstood concept within our industry, as well as the rooms, the 12-step rooms. Thanks so much for joining us today. And if we can ever be helpful to you or a family member or a friend, please contact us at 888-656-8059 or visit our website at www.thelaunchingpadrecovery.com. Till next time, take care.